At Thanksgiving dinner, I knocked on the door with my kids. My daughter in a navy dress with little gold stars, my son clutching a crumpled card that said, "Happy Thanksgiving, Grandma." The cold wind bit our faces as we stood on the porch, pumpkin pie balanced in my other hand. I saw movement behind the lace curtain. Then, the door cracked open. My mom peeked out. Her eyes darted between us, me, my daughter, my son. She gave a tight smile, the kind people wear at funerals. Then she said, "We're keeping this a family-only event." Her voice was soft, almost kind, like she was saying, "Sorry, we ran out of seats." But I knew that tone. I'd heard it my whole life, when I wasn't enough, when I wasn't wanted, when I was a problem. I blinked. "Excuse me?" She didn't answer. She just looked past me like I was blocking her view of something better. I felt my daughter shift beside me. Then my son whispered, "Aren't we family?" And right there I felt it. The sharp, familiar sting of being unwanted. I smiled. Tight. Controlled. I bent down and took their hands. "Let's go get pizza." I turned without another word. I didn't flinch when the door closed behind me. Didn't look back when the fall wreath slipped off the nail and landed on the porch with a dull thud. We walked down the driveway, their little hands gripping mine, until we reached the car. My heart was hammering, but I kept my voice light. "Who wants extra cheese?" They cheered, because they didn't know. They didn't understand. But I did. I knew this wasn't just a missed dinner. This was the moment my family drew a line and put me on the outside. We ended up at a half-empty pizza place. Paper napkins, greasy plates. My son colored a turkey on the kids' menu. My daughter told the waiter it was our special Thanksgiving pizza party. I laughed. I stirred my soda. And that's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. "My brother." I answered. "Ellen, what the hell did you do?" No hello. No explanation. Just fury. I blinked. "What? Why did the bank freeze the family trust account?" The words hit like a slap. I sat there, heart suddenly still. I leaned back in the vinyl booth and stared at the melted cheese on my daughter's plate. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me, because I didn't freeze that account. At least, not that day. But it turns out, I could. Have you ever realized that the people who treat you like nothing are standing on something you built? I hadn't touched that trust in over a year. But guess whose name was on it? Guess whose signature opened it? And whose could close it? Mine. My money. Their safety net. All tied to a woman they had just shoved out the door. And for the first time in years, I wasn't mad. I wasn't heartbroken. I was done. I took a slow sip of my drink and said into the phone, "She told me to leave." So I did. "You didn't have to take it this far." My brother barked. His voice was sharp, accusing, but I was calm. "Funny. You didn't say that when I was paying Mom's mortgage or covering your business loan." The phone went silent. All I could hear was the soft giggle of my daughter showing her brother how to draw a pizza slice. They didn't know a war had just started, or maybe finally ended. I looked at them. My two little anchors in a storm I'd been holding back for years. And quietly, I said it for the first time. They brought this on themselves. Somewhere in the distance, I swear I heard the faint sound of a fuse, hissing its way toward a very big explosion. And in that quiet pizza place, I finally realized this Thanksgiving wasn't about family. It was about finally seeing the truth. That some people aren't your family. They're just the debt collectors of your loyalty. And I was done making payments. I didn't answer my brother's call after that. Not when he texted, "We need to talk." Not when he called again, this time at midnight. Because by then, I wasn't in the mood for talks. I was in the mood for truths. And the truth was, for the past 8 years, I'd been their silent investor. Not in a business. In them. When Mom's house nearly went into foreclosure, I paid the back taxes. When my brother's startup failed, I covered his credit card debt. Even co-signed his next loan. When my sister needed a car to get her life back on track, guess whose name was on the lease? I was the family vault. The bank they never said thank you to. And funny thing about vaults, when you lock them, they tend to stay closed. But the real kicker? They thought I'd never turn the key. 2 days after Thanksgiving, I was cleaning the living room when my phone buzzed again. Mom. I stared at the screen. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it. But something in me, maybe old habit, answered. Her voice slid down the line like ice water. Ellen, what did you do? I didn't answer right away. She filled the silence. Your brother said the trust account is frozen. The family fund, the emergency savings. Why? I wiped a smudge off the coffee table. Because I'm not your emergency anymore. There was a sharp inhale. Don't be childish. I smiled. I'm being accurate. She switched tactics, soft and sharp all at once. You know your father left that account for all of us. It was meant to help the family. I sat down. And who kept it going after he passed? Who paid into it every year when no one else did? You? Silence. I'm done, Mom. I said it like I was setting down a suitcase I'd been carrying for a decade, but she wasn't done. You're punishing us for a misunderstanding? Your sister didn't mean to hurt you. I stared at the blank TV screen. My reflection stared back, tired, thin around the eyes, but sharper than I remembered. She meant it exactly like that. And you all let it happen. Her voice dropped to a whisper. We're family, Ellen. I took a breath and said the words I should have said years ago. Family doesn't slam doors in your face and expect you to fund their lives afterward. I hung up. I sat in that quiet living room, heart pounding not with anger, but with something colder. Clarity. And for the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for their approval or their explanations. I wasn't waiting for a seat at their table. I was building my own. That weekend, I called the bank. And not just about the trust account. I reviewed every loan, every co-signed agreement, every joint obligation with my name on it. The numbers hit me like cold rain. $24,000 on my brother's business line of credit. $6,500 on my sister's car lease. $3,800 still on a family medical loan I co-signed for Mom. My stomach twisted. All this time, I thought I was helping. Turns out, I was just delaying the inevitable. I gave the bank notice. Effective immediately, I wasn't responsible for a single payment beyond my legal obligation. I wouldn't cover shortfalls, wouldn't approve new loans, wouldn't bail them out. The bank rep tried to be polite. This might cause some financial strain on your family. I smiled. I'm aware. I ended the call and looked around my house. The bills on the counter, the fridge nearly empty after I stretched Thanksgiving leftovers, my kids' coats drying on the chairs, and for the first time in years, I felt something I didn't recognize. Lightness. I wasn't cutting them off out of revenge. I was cutting myself loose. Because here's the thing no one tells you about being the strong one. If you never stop carrying people, they forget you can leave. And I had just left. They just didn't know yet how fast the ground would fall out from under them. The fallout started faster than I thought. Monday morning, 8:03 a.m., I was brushing my daughter's hair before school when my phone buzzed on the counter. Incoming call, Mom. I let it ring. Then it rang again. Incoming call, brother, then again. Group FaceTime. I stared at the screen. There they were. My mother, my brother, and my sister. All crammed together on a single screen, sitting at the family dining room table. The same one I hadn't been invited to on Thanksgiving. I tapped accept. Ellen, this has gone far enough. My mother snapped before I could even say hello. My brother leaned in, eyes sharp. You need to fix this. Now. My sister sniffled, dabbing her eyes with a tissue like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Why are you doing this to us? I sat down at my kitchen table, the cold wood pressing against my arms. I smiled. You mean after Mom told me I wasn't welcome? After my son asked if we're even family? Silence, except for my sister's dramatic sigh. We didn't mean it like that, my brother muttered. I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound that didn't feel like mine. You meant it exactly like that. My mother leaned forward, her eyes hard. We're family. Family sticks together. I held her gaze. Family doesn't lock the door in your face and expect you to pay their bills afterward. There was a flicker, something passing over her face. Guilt? Regret? But it vanished too fast. My sister's voice cracked. You don't know what it's like. I've been trying to hold everything together, and you just abandon us. What am I supposed to do now? I met her gaze through the screen. Stand on your own. For once. A long silence followed. The kind that fills rooms even through a phone. Then my mother said, quieter this time, maybe we leaned on you too much. But that's what family does. We pick each other up. I shook my head slowly. I picked everyone up. For years. And no one ever checked if I was standing or bleeding. My sister's voice broke. So you're just going to watch me get evicted? I tilted my head. You watched me walk away with my kids on Thanksgiving and didn't say a word. We're even. I hung up. The phone buzzed again, lighting up with messages. You're heartless. You're tearing this family apart. What happened to you? I didn't answer. I didn't even read them. I sat there, letting the quiet settle. And it felt clean, like the air after a storm. Because here's something no one tells you. Closure doesn't always come with forgiveness. Sometimes it comes when you finally stop begging people to see you and start showing them who you've become when you finally see yourself. That afternoon, I took my kids to the park. We ate ice cream on a bench. We laughed when my son spilled sprinkles all over the ground. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about overdue payments or silent resentments. I wasn't wondering if I was enough. I just was. But the silence didn't last. That night, a letter came. Certified mail. I opened it. It was from the family trust's lawyer. Request for immediate review of financial contributions and withdrawal rights. In plain English, they were trying to have me removed from the trust. I laughed, out loud, because if they'd read the terms, the ones I drafted with Dad years ago, they'd know. You can't remove the person who created the fund, or the person who is still, legally, the primary benefactor. But that wasn't even the punchline. Attached was a memo, a handwritten note from my sister. I know you won't fight us. You never do. I sat back, holding that note, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not sadness, amusement. Because they still thought I was the same Ellen. The backup plan. The silent supporter. The bank in human form. They didn't realize I hadn't stopped fighting. I just started fighting for the right person. Me. And now, they were about to find out what it really feels like when the person you depend on walks away. 3 days after the FaceTime ambush, I stood at the bank, the same branch I'd been visiting for over a decade. The manager, Mr. Benson, greeted me like an old friend. Mrs. Carter, always a pleasure. How can we help today? I smiled politely. I'd like to review the family trust. His face shifted, the professional mask slipping on. Of course. Would you like to discuss contributions or distributions? I folded my hands on the polished desk. Neither. I'm here to dissolve it. His eyes widened. That would require a primary benefactor's signature. I met his gaze. You're looking at her. The color drained slightly from his face. He rifled through the papers, checking the original documentation. Then his eyes flicked back up. You do realize this will remove access for the other parties, permanently. I nodded. I'm aware. He hesitated. May I ask, are you certain? I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Let me ask you something, Mr. Benson. If you kept giving out loans and no one ever paid you back, would you keep lending? He blinked. Then slowly he smiled. I'll have the paperwork ready. I signed every document with a steady hand. Account closed. Funds transferred. To my name. My kids' savings. Our future. I walked out of that bank lighter than I'd felt in years, but I wasn't naive. I knew the calls would come. I just didn't expect them to start before I even got home. The first was from my brother. I let it go to voicemail. The second, from my mother. I didn't answer. The third, a group text. You've lost your mind. This isn't who you are. Dad would be ashamed. I stared at the words. Dad. The man who taught me to stand up for myself. And the man they were now trying to use against me. I shook my head. Because here's what they didn't understand. Dad wasn't about keeping peace. He was about keeping your dignity. I knew exactly who I was. That night, while my kids slept, I sat at the kitchen table with a mug of tea and opened the family group chat. The same chat I hadn't heard from. Until now. I typed slowly. You closed the door on me and my children. You made it clear I wasn't family. So I made it official. Effective immediately. I am no longer your bank, your bailout, or your backup plan. You may want to read the trust agreement before you involve lawyers again. Consider this my final withdrawal. From all of you. I hit send. The chat exploded within seconds. My sister. You're heartless. You ruined us. My brother, this is financial betrayal. We'll sue. My mother, I didn't raise you to be cruel. I stared at the messages as they poured in. Accusations, insults, threats. I finished my tea, turned off my phone, and slept like a baby. The next morning, I dropped my kids off at school, and as I pulled into work, my assistant flagged me down. Ellen, HR wants to see you. I frowned. Why? She bit her lip. Your sister. Posted about you. Tagged the company. Accused you of financial abuse. I felt the ice settle in my veins, because this wasn't just family drama now. They were trying to hit where it hurt. My job. My reputation. I walked straight to HR, sat down across from my manager. He cleared his throat. We've seen the posts. We need your side. I didn't flinch. I pulled out my laptop, opened the file I'd started compiling months ago. Bank transfers, receipts, text messages, signed agreements. Every time I'd bailed them out. Every dollar I'd spent. I slid the laptop across the table. Here's my side. He scrolled in silence. 5 minutes later, he closed it gently. Thank you. This clears things up. I nodded. Is that all? He gave a small smile. You're good. Case closed. I walked out of that office with my head high. Because here's the thing. People can lie about you, twist the story, rewrite the narrative. But the truth? The truth doesn't blink. And I wasn't afraid to let it speak. The post went live at 7:04 p.m. I didn't plan it like that. Didn't schedule it. Didn't even think twice. I just typed. Not a clapback. Not a name drop. Just the truth. Sometimes the people you love the most expect you to fund their lives, fix their mistakes, and forgive their betrayals. Forever. And when you stop, they call you cruel. If you've ever been guilted into silence, know this. Kindness isn't a debt. And walking away isn't a crime. I attached a screenshot, not of their insults, but of a bank transfer from 2 years ago. The one where I'd covered my sister's overdue rent. I hit post. I turned off my phone. Took my kids out for ice cream. Extra sprinkles. Extra whipped cream. By the time we got home, my phone was vibrating nonstop on the kitchen counter. Notifications, comments, shares. It wasn't just friends. It was strangers. People sharing their own stories of being used, of being guilted, of being silenced. I sat down, scrolling through the flood of messages, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. But the real surprise came the next morning. A friend texted me a link. I clicked it. A podcast episode. When Family Becomes Your Biggest Burden. Hosted by someone I'd never heard of. I hit play. 15 minutes in, they quoted my post, word for word. Then they said something that stuck with me. Sometimes breaking away isn't revenge. It's survival. I sat there in my kitchen, listening to strangers dissect my story like it was a case study. And it hit me. I hadn't just shut a door on my family. I'd opened a door for 100 others. But my family, they weren't having it. By noon, my sister posted on her Instagram story, a teary selfie, a long caption. Betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family. I gave everything to people who turned their backs on me. Family first. Stay strong. They will regret it. I almost laughed. I didn't respond. But other people did. Screenshots started circulating. Her old posts, bragging about finessing her way out of bills. Jokes about making people pay for my mistakes. Even one where she joked about never paying rent, because why have a brother if you can't use him? They weren't even private. She'd put them out there like trophies. Now, they were her downfall. The internet didn't forget. By evening, the hashtag changed. From stay strong to own your actions. I sat back, watching the narrative twist itself into knots. And through it all, I stayed silent. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't have to speak. The truth was loud enough. That night, my phone rang. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. It was my sister. Her voice was soft, small, a version of her I hadn't heard in years. Ellen, you didn't have to do this. I stayed quiet. She sniffled. People are threatening me, messaging me. I'm losing followers. I didn't think you'd actually... I leaned back in my chair. You built the stage. I just turned on the lights. Silence. Then almost a whisper. Do you hate me? I closed my eyes and realized I didn't. I didn't hate her. Hate would require energy, and I'd already given her enough of mine. I opened my eyes. You wanted attention. Now you've got it. She inhaled sharply. Please, can we fix this? I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. There's no we anymore. I hung up, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel bad. I felt free. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is living like they never broke you. New Year's Eve came and went. No calls, no texts, not from my mother, not from my brother, not even my sister. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't ache. Just rests. It was me, my 2 kids, a couple of party hats, and some dollar store confetti that stuck to our socks for a week. And honestly, it was peaceful. No eggshells, no fake smiles, no pretending I didn't feel invisible in rooms full of people who shared my DNA. But of course, the silence didn't last, because when people can't reach you, they try other ways. On January 3rd, a letter arrived from a collections agency. I opened it on the kitchen counter while my daughter colored at the table. Final notice, apartment damages, $9,248.76 due. Guess whose name was on the lease? I stared at the number, something hollow and sharp settling in my chest. I called my sister. Straight to voicemail. I texted her. You trashed the place. You pay for it. No reply. I checked her Instagram story. There she was. Spa day. Gold face mask. Champagne glass in hand. Caption, healing my soul in 2024. I almost laughed. But then, the real hit came. A call from HR. Ellen, we've received a complaint. I blinked. What? Your sister tagged the company in a post. Something about financial abuse and toxic family dynamics. She mentioned your full name. For a second, I couldn't breathe. She hadn't just tried to drag me. She tried to destroy me. I didn't even let HR finish before I opened my laptop. I pulled up the folder I'd been updating for months. Every Venmo payment, every bank transfer, every signed lease agreement, screenshots of her thank you texts, even a photo of her holding the keys to the apartment, the one I'd paid for. I sent HR the link. Subject line: "For your records, the full story." They called back the next day. "Thank you, Ellen. We're closing the matter." But I wasn't done, because here's the thing about blood. People think it gives them rights, control. That family ties are chains you can't break. But blood isn't a receipt. It's just biology. And I was done paying interest on a relationship built on guilt. So I posted again. Not a rant, not revenge, just a truth. When someone weaponizes your kindness, it changes you. I used to think silence was strength. Now I know silence is permission. I don't give it anymore. It went viral. People shared it, commented, thanked me. And I realized maybe I wasn't the only one who needed to say it. My sister? She went quiet. She didn't expect me to speak. She only ever knew the version of me who paid the bills and swallowed the pain. She wasn't ready for the version who finally said, "Enough." A week later, I got tagged in a post on a major platform. The silent sister who finally spoke. Thousands of comments. People who had carried their families like coffins on their backs. And then the screenshots started surfacing. Not mine. Heron old tweets, Instagram posts, bragging about not paying rent, about finessing her way through life. She didn't even bother to make them private, because she never thought anyone would look too closely. Then came the podcast episodes, the think pieces. Let's talk about financial abuse, but the other way around. Her echo chamber collapsed. And me? I stayed silent until the night she called. Her voice? Small, fragile. "Ellen, people are threatening me." I stayed quiet. I didn't mean for this to happen. I spoke softly. "You built the stage. I just turned on the lights." She sniffled. "Do you hate me?" I almost smiled. "I don't hate you. I hate the version of me I became to keep loving you." She didn't reply. And for the first time, I didn't wait for her to. Because sometimes, closure doesn't come with forgiveness. It comes when you stop letting people rent space in your life. For free. 6 months later. My phone barely rings. My bank account doesn't bleed. My kids wake up smiling. I take them to brunch every Sunday. No doorbells, no rejections, no guilt. Just us. Last Sunday, my son handed me a crayon drawing. A house. 3 stick figures holding hands. Above it, in his shaky handwriting, "We are safe here." I stared at it for a long time. Safe. That was the word I didn't know I needed. Not loved, not appreciated. Safe. And if you're reading this, if your loyalty has ever felt like a leash, if your kindness has been used as a weapon, let this be your permission slip. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to choose peace, even if it leaves them confused. Because family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up. It's who doesn't flinch when you fall. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is close the door they slammed in your face. For good.